I was lying with my back towards the door, and I didn't feel the true effects of the beer until I had laid down. The room started spinning, and my body felt incredibly heavy. It was like I was weighed down or something. I thought it was John, but it wasn't. It was his friend. He sat down by me on the bed, and he said that he just wanted to say goodnight. I remember telling him not to drive home drunk. Then all of a sudden he started to touch me sexually, and I said, "What are you doing? Stop." He walked away, and I heard a noise at the door, so I thought he'd left. But what he really did was lock the bedroom door. He pulled the comforter off of me in the bed, and he grabbed my ankles, and he flipped me over onto my stomach, and he pulled me down to the end of the bed, and he spread my legs. And I remember telling him over and over, no, no, no.
By chunks out of me, you're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still thumps as I bleed, and all your friends come sniffing. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go, my love. Till morning comes, let's desolate.
You really don't, comprehend the magnitude of the problem until you see something like that. That by the end of today, 5 more children will have died, and tomorrow, 5 more children will have died. Here in the United States, which we consider the most powerful and wealthy country in the world, the child abuse and neglect and fatality rate is higher than any other Western industrialized country.
I'll breathe stones alone, my love.
I find it so interesting that we're able to find money for other things like bailing out the banks and fighting wars around the world, when we really need to be focusing and channeling that money into protecting and serving the children of this country, who are the future of this country.
One red, one green, centigrades while the candle spins. Chunks of you will sink down to seas, blubber rich in morning. I'll mash you up, yes, I know it's a love away, but it's fair to say you will still haunt me. Triangles are my favorite.
I would love to see someone who's been involved in a bad relationship or a sexually abusive relationship or even raped to be able to overcome the horrific things that they went through and to someday live a happy, normal, productive life.
They can leave long-term effects. They can affect how people think. They can have physical effects like injuries and bruises. I believe it can, with the right amount of love and support from other people, and just having a more positive mindset also. So.
someone is emotionally abused, they're negatively affected by the words or actions of others. The victim's self-esteem is usually dramatically altered in a negative way. The way they think is negatively affected through the words and actions. The outcome of their future can be changed by the detrimental effects that the emotional abuse has left on them, whether it be the way they act in the future or feel as well. I think this can harm the victim and others around them by the way the victim can potentially act later, and also others thinking that this kind of abuse can be okay. I know some of my friends who have been emotionally abused by the words of others and just bullying also in general.
The way I define sexual abuse, it can be taken in various ways, physically, emotionally, mentally. It can happen through anyone, not just, male and female. It can happen female and female or male and male. It can happen anyway.
Your eyes warmed to a warning of a death.
I don't think rape is all about sex. I believe that rape is about power and wanting to dominate over someone and being able to take over that. So when a female or anyone is raped, they're being stripped of their power in a way. It's just they're weak, and the other person can see that and takes advantage of it.
How do I define it? I define it how most likely everyone else defines it. It's illegal to put your hands on a child in that type of aggressive way, so I guess that any way causing harm to a child physically is physical abuse. Things that you could look for would probably be like bruises or marks or scratches, even cuts, stuff like that. If there's maybe a sudden change in their behavior, I guess that doesn't technically mean that it's child abuse, but something might be going on that you might want to look into and ensure their safety. I think getting involved is definitely extremely important. If you know that a child or anyone is getting abused, you probably want to ensure that they're going to be safe, so you probably want to take them out of that situation as soon as possible.
In this project, I learned that abuse is something that is often hidden, but is still a corruption that is happening in our world, because children, women, and even men are abused every day and aren't brave enough to get the help that they need. And if everyone can just reach out and help them, donate, do anything you can to help with the movement against abuse, maybe it'll stop, maybe it'll end abuse.
What this video and the project itself taught me is that abuse comes in so many different forms, and it can happen to anyone and everyone. It's not necessarily grouped towards a specific number of people, but it happens to the best of us and the worst of us, and it's not something that can be helped too much. The only thing that you can actually do is to support those who have been abused and to help them in any which way that you can, which includes being a moral support whenever they need you and listening to them talk. I mean, it's all about listening, and it'll just make their day. I think that's the best we can do.
What I learned from this project is that child abuse is a huge problem in the United States, and it's often overlooked. Like, we all know about it, but we tend not to pay much attention to it, but we should, because it's a lot bigger issue than we all think.
Hi. In this project, I learned a lot about abuse and how it affects people and how it affects human beings, and how there are many different types of abuses, like sexual, mental, physical, stuff like that. And I found it really disturbing and found it really hard to believe what some people could do to other people, and it was really interesting.